Hey, welcome to the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute with your host, the alchemist of Indiana's Black Forest, Alan Bishop. Hey, this channel is all about home distilling and legal distilling. If you've got questions, reach out to us in the comments below, social media, or via bishopshomegrown@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out thealchemistcabinet.com. Hey guys, another talking head video here. Sorry for the lack of videos lately, but got back from Pennsylvania last week and just been crazy busy with everything else. You know, it being early spring here, we're starting seeds. I just potted up a bunch of onion starts earlier. I got my new greenhouse up, planting stuff in the cold tunnel. Just trying to catch up with life in general. Got a couple of really cool, big projects coming up here shortly. And I hope you guys enjoyed the little video I made of my trip to Pennsylvania with Stolen Wolf to work on the Wolf and Wilson whiskey project that Eric and Aviana and myself and Jim are working on. That's something that I'm really looking forward to, and I love Stolen Wolf. So if you've never had Stolen Wolf whiskey, go out there and get it. They do a 2-year-old rose and rye, which is just absolutely phenomenal. Not to mention the fact that, you know, they're just good stand-up people who I really enjoyed working with, and we'll be working with them again in the future as well. Was lucky enough to run into a fan that has become a friend now while I was in Pennsylvania, Dan Black. Great to see you. It was great to hang out, man. And, yeah, so let's get into some questions and see what we got here, because I have not had a chance to answer any questions for a little while. This is a longer email, but I'm going to read it to you anyways, because I printed off before I left for Pennsylvania. I had not had a chance to look at it since then. So, as always, reach out to me at thealchemistcabinet.com, bishopshomegrown@gmail.com, the YouTube comments below, or any of my social media. I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Just bear in mind that I am in the busy part of my year, and even busier this year because of the number of projects that I have going on and things that I'm working on, sort of behind the scenes. So it may take me a little while sometimes to get videos up at this current point in time, guys. But you can also check out the If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything podcast on wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget, we still do have the Alchemist Cabinets, the Distiller's Almanac for this year available. I know some of you are waiting on those coming right now. We're waiting on Amazon to get those to us. They should be here at the beginning of this week, and then they're headed out to you guys. So that is the volume 1 of that Distiller's Almanac. I'm getting ready to start in on volume 2 right now. The plan is to actually have that done by like November, where you guys could pick it up as Christmas gifts or stuff like that and have it, you know, for the entirety of the year to be able to use. And this sort of prototype version that I've already done, volume 1, has given me so many ideas for how to improve it next year. I'm just really excited to get started on it. So here we go. Alan, before I get to my question, I wanted to mention what an inspiration you've been for me the past several days since I learned who you were from Jesse of the YouTube channel Still It. That's awesome. I kept hearing your name mentioned time and time again, and it finally stuck, realizing what a force and inspiration you are to many in the home distilling and craft distilling communities. Once your name finally stuck, I was surprised how often your name came up in various resources on the web, podcasts, and YouTube. I have since subscribed to all of your distilling blogs, podcasts, and YouTube channels, at least those I am currently aware of that involve distilling. In fact, I had subscribed to your YouTube channel One Piece at a Time before I realized who you were, unknowingly that it was your channel. Since I've watched several YouTube videos, read several online articles and blogs, and listened to several podcasts you created or were involved with, it is refreshing and inspiring to find someone that is so passionate about their art and craft. Much appreciated. Now that I've mentioned how quote-unquote unworthy, not true, I am to be communicating with you, I have a question about a sacrificial run on my new distillation head that attaches to my all-in-one brewing system, a Brewzilla Gen 4, which I've been brewing beers with for the past year. I've been brewing beer since 1981 when I was in college. I've had the distilling bug for the past 10 years or so, and finally decided to take the plunge. I recently bought a copper dome and still spirits pot still alembic condenser to use with my Brewzilla. I heard Jesse mention that you should always do a sacrificial run when using a new still, or still head in my case. My question about my first sacrificial run is, once I complete the run, which I will do as a stripping run, and realizing that it is a quote-unquote sacrificial, should I just dump the entire run, or can I redistill it and consume the resulting distillate, or possibly add the first run to another wash before doing a stripping run? My first wash I will be doing the sacrificial run with is just simple sugar wash that I fermented with a turbo vodka yeast packet, so I'm not too concerned about dumping the whole batch, but was thinking I might be able to use the distillate to make some simple sweet liqueurs for some friends and family that might enjoy such things. For your information, in case you're interested, my first several batches I plan to make is rum to gain some experience, and I figure it's about the cheapest quality liquor I can make for aging. What I'm really excited about making is single malt whiskeys, since I seem to prefer Scotch over bourbon in most cases, and I've recently been inspired by some American single malt whiskeys, most notably Balcones in Texas, one single malt, currently my favorite whiskey of all time. I'm a proud Texan after all. Have you ever met a Texan that wasn't? I figured single malts would be right up my alley since I've been brewing all grain, all malt beers for years. By the way, I do plan on following your line of thinking by making liberal use of my specialty malts in my mashes. Most notably, crystal/caramel and chocolate malts, and possibly some oat and rye malts I can get at my local homebrew store. I'll end here before it gets any longer. Thanks in advance for your answers and any advice you may have. That Balcones single malt is very good. I'm actually a pretty big fan of Texas whiskey in general, not just single malt, but I love Iron Root Republic. I love Ranger Creek. Wow, what else is out there that I've had? That Balcones is pretty good stuff. And single malt is a very big growing category in the craft distilling market. In fact, those of you who are looking to start distilleries, I'd be looking real hard at making some single malt, making some rye whiskey, because there just ain't room in bourbon, as we talked about before. But that's neither here nor there. So let's jump into the sacrificial run thing real quick. Your question is, should you actually dump the entire run? If you're going to make a run for a sacrificial run to clean your equipment, I would highly advise dumping the entirety of that run and not trying to reuse it. The reason I say that is because you don't have any idea of what kind of potential chemicals/carcinogens may have been used for shaping the copper, cleaning the copper, machining the copper, or stainless, right? And a lot of those are miscible in either water and or ethanol, and they will come over in the distillation. And the chances are, if they come over in the stripping still distillation, they're probably going to come across in a doubling distillation as well, contaminating your liquor. There's a lot of things that can be in, various different fluxes and things of that nature that you don't want to be consuming. So if you're going to do a sacrificial run of actual alcohol, yes, I would very highly advise that you dump that. If folks aren't into dumping a sacrificial run, and granted, it doesn't have to cost much to do this. You can do it out of sugar or whatever, and no big deal, right? But if you don't want to have to make a run like that, what you should do is maybe do like the cleaning process like I use on my pot stills at work. So, maybe take some citric acid, throw that in, drop your pH down into the 4s or so, bring that up to boil everything off, boil all of that vapor, a good amount of that vapor through all of the equipment that you have, and use that to pull off any of those chemicals. Then go back in, hit it with some powdered brewer's wash, boil that off again, and then hit it with some water, boil that off again. So where you're removing all that stuff from the system, the same as you would with a sacrificial run. I wouldn't advise just washing everything down and then running it. You definitely need to be running something through it that's going to remove those alcohols. And that citric acid and that powdered brewer's wash are certainly going to help do that, followed up by that water steam out that's going to push anything else over that might be in there that you may not want. I certainly wouldn't advise using anything that you distilled on that sacrificial run for any liquor anywhere ever, for yourself, or for definitely not for anybody else, and also definitely not for yourself. But certainly you don't want to be poisoning your friends and family and people like that might taste that liquor as well. So I know that that's disappointing, and it's not necessarily an ideal situation, but it is by far the safest situation you can put yourself in to make sure that you're not causing any harm to anybody. That's the one thing that I'm a firm believer in as an alchemist and as a follower of Gnosticism and Hermeticism, that alcohol is a key to open doors that would not otherwise be open to people. And it's also there for positive use, not negative use, not to be disabused. And so you only want to bring joy and happiness and social lubrication to yourself or to other people. You certainly don't want it to bring any negative effects upon anyone out there whatsoever. Alcohol's, been connected to any number of negative things as it is already. Let's not contribute to that in any way, shape, or form. So fantastic email, man. And William, you are by far more than worthy to speak to me. Trust me. I am a mere mortal, and I shit in a bowl of clean drinking water like most of the civilized world does. So I'm just as insane as anybody else out there. I got time for one more real quick aside here. There was a YouTube comment that I did see earlier. I didn't print it off, so I don't even know who said it. But they were asking about the differences between soft red wheat, white wheat, and hard red wheat, and what I preferred. So, and why. So I thought that was a pretty good question. And I've done a lot of distillation with wheat. In fact, part of the mash bill for the project at Stolen Wolf, the Wolf and Wilson whiskey, that you can go read all about, or no, I'm sorry, not read all about, but hear all about on the One Piece at a Time Sacred and Profane podcast, with interviews with myself and Eric and Laura Petruzio, Laura Fields of the Fields Foundation. We did use a white wheat for that. I have typically in the past used hard red wheat because that's what I had available to me from the farm that is associated with my current distillery. There's nothing wrong with that hard red wheat, and I feel like it holds up pretty well over time to the barrel. On younger products, I do tend to like that soft white wheat. I love the sort of cream cheese icing effect that can have in a distillation, or that almost vanilla sort of effect that soft white wheat can have in a distillation, that you certainly don't get from the red wheats. Those red wheats tend to present as a little bit more, I guess, think the lines of like breakfast cereal to me, and it's good, it's fine, but you also get a lot of sort of brand characteristic to it that you don't seem to get out of the white wheat, and the white wheat seems to be a little bit more fleet on its feet, a little more approachable, especially as a young spirit or even a white spirit. And given, the choice between all of them, certainly I would go with that white wheat without a doubt. Now, in terms of why the flavor is affected in that way, I wish I had an answer for that. I don't know. I honestly, that's probably a little bit of a blind spot in my plant breeding background. I did some wheat breeding and stuff, but I never went all the way down to the genetic level of that to see, what was affecting flavor. With corn, it's easy. You can certainly see how the color or the type of corn would affect the flavor of the distillation. And maybe with the wheat, the red wheats, especially the hard red wheats, they're going to be a little bit more flinty, like a flint corn. So you're not going to get as good a yield off of them. And presumably you'll have some more of that starchy, earthy sort of character across, as opposed to those softer wheats, and those uncolored sort of wheats, those white colored wheats. But I don't know a chemical constituent or why it would work that way, if that makes any sense. So I hope that answered your question, guys. As always, reach out to me. As always, please support us in any way you can at thealchemistcabinet.com. You can still buy volume 1 of the book out there. You can still buy volume 2 of the book out there, and you can buy the Distiller's Almanac out there. And every bit of that money helps us continue to do all of these things, and helps feed my family, to be quite honest with you. This is what I do for a living, what I'm going to continue to do for a living, and writing is going to become an even bigger part of that as we go, as are these videos, as our podcast, etc. So, all right, guys, I love you. Later.